Hello everybody, it's Julia here from the Highly Sensitive Tarot, and I'm back today with, I might sit and record 2 videos today, or I might do one today and one another day, I'm not sure, but they're going to be my least worked with decks and my most worked with decks of 2023, and I think this video is going to be called maybe my most neglected decks of 2023. It's been a funny year, 2023, before I start getting into the cards. I've got 10 decks to show you, 10 of the most neglected and 10 of the most worked with. And like I said, it's been a funny year. I think at the start of 2023, I would have never called myself a deck collector. I would have never called myself a collector in general, really, I don't think. I've had my channel maybe 2.5 years now, and when I started my channel, I had about a dozen decks, and most of those I'd had a long time. And then just gradually over the time, my own buying and the decks that have been bought for me have just like gone through the roof, really. I think I've now got maybe something like 120 decks altogether, which is a very moderate collection probably. I know people that have got many more. I think my collection is predominantly still tarot cards because they are my real obsession. I've got 70 something decks of tarot cards and 40 something decks of oracle cards at the moment. Excuse me. And it's been a funny year for me to sort of come to terms with this, really, because I suppose earlier in the year I got embroiled in a couple of tarot tube dramas about tarot consumerism and such like, and I allowed other people to influence my thinking and influence my buying habits, and to really influence how I felt about that. And for some time I did feel quite bad about what I was buying. Excuse me, I've got a terrible frog in my throat this morning. I don't think I'm coming down with anything. I think it's just having the heating on a lot. Anyway, yeah, I allowed people to make me feel bad, really. I got embroiled in dramas that I had no business being involved in, really. And, you know, there was just a lot went on earlier in the year, and it did make me feel quite bad about myself. And it's taken a lot of soul searching and a lot of shadow work and a lot of introspection for me to think about why I buy things, why I get obsessed with things, what things mean to me, and whether it's actually okay to spend my money on the things that I love or not. And after months and months of that kind of soul searching, I have come to the conclusion that it is very much okay for me to spend my money on what I want and what makes me happy. You know, I don't think anybody really has the right to judge anybody else's life unless they've walked in somebody else's shoes for a time. You know, we all are dealing with different things, and we all do things for different reasons. We all have different motivations for the things that we do. So I think 2024 for me is going to be a year of reining in some of my spending, because to be honest, there's not that many more decks that I'm desperate to own. I'm sure there'll be new decks that come out next year. I've got a wish list of decks that I would like, but although I've got 10 decks to show you today that I did not use in 2023, I've also got a pile of decks, maybe about another 7 or 8 that I just haven't got to yet. Not that I didn't use them, they're just waiting for me to get to. So until I have got to those decks, I'm not going to be buying any more. And I have the feeling that next year, because I will have moved house. I know I've been saying that for months, but I will have moved house fairly soon. And I would imagine that once I do, I will be spending my money on different things because I'll have so many different distractions, you know, of a new home to decorate and a new garden to get out and get involved in. So I think that's been a big part really of my spending this last year, is that I've felt unsettled, you know. So anyway, without further ado, because I don't want to rant or moan too much about things, but I did just want to put that out there really, because I realised that I've gone through a bit of a transition in the last year, and we're coming up to the end of the year, so I think it's important to reflect on these things and kind of move forward. So without further ado, I've got 10 decks to show you, and for one reason or another, they are all decks that I have not worked with, not even once. And that does make me feel, that doesn't make me feel happy, that doesn't make me feel good. Some of these decks, I'm not sure whether I will really work with. And some of these decks I know that I will get round to at some point. And this first deck, as you just saw, is the Moonology deck by Yasmin Boland. And I don't think I have actually worked with this once this year. I think I did used to use this a little bit when I was doing a lot more readings. When I was doing some astrology readings and collective readings, I think it would come out then. But yeah, I don't know why, because I love astrology. I'm very interested in astrology. I just have not felt the pull of this deck. I suppose I've maybe struggled to sort of see where it fits into my readings, because I obviously know the astrology at the time when I'm doing a reading, the real astrology, and so I see no point in drawing a card that tells me about things that are happening in the sky at another time in the year. So I don't know, that doesn't make sense, does it? I don't know. So I'll have to see. I think if these cards don't come out and I don't have a go at them again in the next few months, I think they will be rehomed, which is not great, is it? You would think a deck like this I would use quite a lot, but no. And this is my only oracle deck actually out of these 10. All of the other decks I've got here are tarot cards. So the next deck I've got here is Tarot of the Divine, and I have owned this deck I think for maybe 2 to 3 years, I'm not sure, and I was so excited to get it because it's beautiful. I love stories, I love folklore, I love fairy tales. It's a very, very pretty, very, very nice deck, which as you can see is in order. I'm not sure why it's in order. I think I did use this when I first had it. It's probably been put in order because I've shown it in a VR video or a deck collection video or something. I don't know. But as you can see, it's beautiful. It really is. The cards are beautiful. Everything about it is gorgeous. It's got a lovely little guidebook. I know that there's a book that comes with this deck that tells you much more in detail and in depth about each of the individual stories and fairy tales. I didn't ever buy that. Perhaps if I did, it would have helped me to get more into them. I think the problem was with it is that most of the stories here were just not stories I could relate to. You know, I grew up with very European fairy tales, you know, like the Little Mermaid and the Fairy Godmother here, but Scheherazade and Our Lady of Guadalupe from Mexico, King Arthur, yes. The White Buffalo Woman, no. Beauty and the Beast, The White Princess from Norway, Tam Lin from Scotland. There's one from Guyana here, one from Korea, Brazil, Norway, Italy, India. Maybe half of the fairy tales in this deck I know of, and maybe half I don't. And I think it was just that reason really why I didn't. And do you know, I think every year since I've had this deck, I've been humming and hawing about whether I should keep it, and I've kept it. And I still actually don't know what to do with it. I still don't know whether to keep it or to rehome it. I've heard so many people say over the last couple of years that they rehome decks that they wish they had, and then they buy them again. And I kind of wonder if this might be one of those. I've got a few decks of fairy tale type subjects at the moment, and I wonder whether maybe I should devote a month to sort of fairy stories or folklore. Maybe that would help me, or it would at least help me make up my mind what I was going to do about that deck. The next one I've got here is the Tarot of Oppositions. And again, I just, there's many things to love about this deck, particularly the box. I'm a big fan of these kind of boxes. But, and I did, when I first got this deck, I did use it quite a lot because I don't tend to read reversals. You know, I read cards, I interpret cards within the context that they are all laid out. You know, I don't read reversals. So I was quite keen to have a go with this deck and just to see what I felt about it. And it's very clever. It's very beautiful. Some of the cards you can very much see the difference between the light and the shadow attribute of the card, like in this one, the Four of Wands. Some of them it's not quite so clear. Some of them are really clever, like this Temperance card. You know, we see in the light attributes here that she's pouring light or water. And when we get to the shadow, all that's left is sand, dust. You know, they are very clever. I don't know what it is. I did a reading for a friend earlier in the year with these. And the majority of the cards that came out were in reverse. They were showing their shadow side. And that reading that I did actually turn out to be quite accurate and quite reflective of this person's year. But at the time, it made me feel really bad. and it kind of put me off. And ever since, I haven't had this deck out again. And like I said, I just don't know whether I will. I don't know whether I will. I don't know whether these kind of decks are my thing or not. I just don't know. I don't know about that. If you've got that deck and you like it, let me know. Let me know how you get on with it, what you think of these. Because there's the vice versa deck also, which has this light and shadow on one card, isn't there? There's a few of them about. So yeah, let me know what you think of these kind of decks, because I'm just not sure about that one. The next deck that I've got here is the Fairy Tarot cards by Radley Valentine. And again, like, I don't know why I haven't worked with this deck. It was a gift from a friend, which makes it all the more awful that I haven't worked with it. And I'm very much into fairies, you know, and the fae, very much. But as you can see, this deck is in order. I have not worked with it. I have not played with it. I have not done a reading for myself. I've not even had this deck out in a collective reading or in a VR or anything, I don't think. And I don't really know why. It's a very, very pretty little deck. Maybe it's too pretty. Some decks I quite like a little bit of writing on the card, or certainly a keyword or two on some decks, but I wonder whether there's just too much written on these cards and they're just too pretty. I don't know. I feel there's not enough here that is intuitive for me, perhaps. I don't know. And I don't know, I honestly don't know whether I'm going to keep them or not. I have plans for the new year that I'm going to have a month devoted to the Fae and the Fairy decks, because I've got quite a few tarot and oracle decks by now. And again, I think that it's going to have a run out then. And if it's not working, it may have to be rehomed. A similar feel about this deck here. Now, this is one that I saw on somebody else's channel. It might have been Astaria Zen, you know, Summer's channel and all her Fae decks. And when she was showing it, she was so enthusiastic about it. And it is beautiful. It's a US Games deck by Jennifer Galasso. And everything about it is pretty. It is pretty. The cards are slidey and they're the sort of cardstock that I enjoy. It's a very pretty deck, but as you're going to see, I think it's probably in order, which means I haven't worked with it once. And again, I don't really know why. I think maybe I'm intimidated by very, very pretty decks. I don't know. It's gorgeous, isn't it? I mean, look at that. All the pinks and the purples, and it's a very intuitive little deck, actually. Now I'm looking at it. See, now I'm looking at it, I'm thinking it's really very gorgeous. So I think, again, as this is a little Fae deck, this is going to be part of my my Fae month that I'm going to have, my fairy month, and I will see how I get on with it, and if it's not working, it may get rehomed. I know that there's been so many times in my life I've done it with books where I've just thought, no, I didn't get on with that. I didn't really enjoy reading it, and I've sold it or given it away to a friend or something, and then I've really regretted it. And often it's nothing to do with the book or the deck, it's just my state of mind at the time. So I have learned my lessons, to not get rid of things too quickly. The next deck I've got here to show you, this was another gift from a friend, and I haven't used it, not once. The Movie Tarot. It's by, who's it by? Lawrence King? Yeah. Concept and design by Mylene Moser. I've not used it once. My friend also bought me an art oracle and a fashion oracle, and I've still got the art oracle, which I do quite enjoy, but the fashion oracle was not for me, and I think it was by the same people. I think if I am to keep this deck, it will be a collector's type deck. I don't think I will ever use it to read with. It's just, it's not, well, I don't know, maybe it is. That's weird, isn't it? Where's the Fool? There's the Fool. Again, as you will see, this deck has is probably all in order, which means that I have not worked with it once. I mean, I really like it because I recognise a lot of the characters in these cards, like, you know, Winona Ryder. She's great as the High Priestess. I think that's Elizabeth Taylor, isn't it? That's, who is that? Al Pacino, maybe. And the Godfather, can't remember who he is. This is from Brokeback Mountain. That's the Russell Crowe, Clint Eastwood, Meryl Streep, maybe. Back to the Future, Sigourney Weaver. So as you can see, it's pretty cool for reminiscing and being nostalgic about old films, Pulp Fiction, The Sound of Music. Can't remember that one. But it's very pippy, and I think that's probably why I haven't used it. You know, I've got the Game of Thrones tarot, and that is a tiny bit pippy, but it's not so pippy that it's put me off. But I think this one did. You know, these sort of cards do nothing for me. So I don't know. I don't think I'm likely to rehome this because I think it's a nice little concept and I like the idea of it. But I think it will become a collector's deck. And I have got a few decks that I would consider decks that I'm collecting because they interest me in some way, but not for reading. And I guess that that's okay, isn't it? What have we got? We've got 4 more decks to go, I think. This next one, Tarot of Mystical Moments by Catherine Wellstein. I had seen this, and this had been on my wish list for so long, and I'd watched other people using it and oohed and ahed over it and thought, that's gorgeous, I really like it. And since I have owned it, it's not done anything for me. If I'm honest, I don't really like the silver gilding, which I don't know why, really. And these backs, the cards are sharp. Oh, I just, do you know, I just don't know why I don't like it. I don't think I really like this sort of collage-y feel of the cards, maybe is what it is. I don't think I like that. And I think also this annoyed me as well. I don't understand why there has to be a male and a female emperor. Because I think that's what this is, isn't it? I think one of them is female. Let me have a look. Make sure I haven't got that wrong. Yeah, there's a male emperor and a female emperor. And I don't really understand why deck creators feel the need to do that. I mean, I know that, you know, I'm probably a dinosaur. I'm 55 and I grew up in a very, very different time to what we live in now, but I don't understand the need for it. You know, we have an empress. Should we have a male and a female empress? No. So I don't understand why we have to have a male and a female emperor. You know, we have male and female energies represented throughout tarot decks all the time. So I don't really understand why there have to be special cards designated for these things, but that's probably a very, very unpopular opinion. And if it is, well, it's tough, isn't it? Is how I feel. So yeah, these cards, I don't know. You know, I just don't know if they're for me. I just don't know. So, I mean, some of the cards are really fascinating. Like this devil card, she's like a spider, isn't she? And there's a poisonous mushroom or toadstool. And I mean, that's really, really interesting. Some of them are quite cool. That's a really pretty one. Some of them are really quite cool, but as a whole, as a deck, I'm not sure if it is for me or not. I will have to think long and hard about whether that should stay in my collection or whether I should rehome it, because I don't know. It's just not doing a great deal for me. What have we got next? So we've got 3 more decks left. So this one is the Pre-Raphaelite Tarot, and I am absolutely fascinated with art tarot decks or oracle decks, anything that represents real art. I love. I've got quite a few arty type decks now, maybe a dozen, and this is one of them, and this is probably my least favourite. I don't think I've used it in a reading. In fact, I know I haven't, but I have shuffled it, and it's been out in VRs and bits and pieces, I think, which is why it's not in complete order. It's in some semblance of order, isn't it? As you can see. And I think why I haven't read with it is because it annoyed me. And I just think it's one of those decks that could have been so much more. You know, Pre-Raphaelite art is just gorgeous, and I know I've got in the video I'm going to do of my most used decks, I've got one by the Art Occultist where she's used a lot of Pre-Raphaelite energy and a lot of Pre-Raphaelite imagery, I should say, and she's used the original paintings in her cards, and they're stunning. They're really emotive and beautiful, and whoever has created this deck has not used the original artwork. They're almost cartoony, aren't they? And it's sort of, I don't know. These are not real reflections of Pre-Raphaelite art as far as I'm concerned. I mean, the original painting of this card is stunning. And I don't know. I don't know. It just doesn't work for me. The people in it, the faces, it doesn't work. And the only reason why I still own it is because it's a Pre-Raphaelite deck and I'm a bit obsessed with arty type decks, and it's in my collection of art type decks. But whether it will stay there or not, I don't know, because I do feel quite disappointed with it. It could have been, you know, that's a real Pre-Raphaelite image there. That one is not, you know. It just could have been so much better, I think. So I don't know what I'm going to do about that one. So 2 decks left. So we've got the Soul Cats deck is the next one, and this again was a gift. This was a gift from my lovely friend who bought me a lot of decks at a time when I was collecting a lot of cat decks. And so, it's with some confusion as to why this deck has ended up in this video, really. I have not used this deck to read with. I think it's been out and it's been shuffled a bit and it's been in some VRs. But I haven't read with it. You can see it's mostly in order here. And I don't know why. I just don't know why. It's very pretty. But I've got, how many other cat decks have I got? I've got maybe 5 other cat decks, and I think I prefer all of them more than this one. So that's probably just why, isn't it? I think I'm going to have to spend some time with this deck and get to know it a bit more. Do you know, that reminds me of my cat, George. Bless him. That looks very much like him, without the collar and the bell. I wouldn't do such cruel things to my cat. If I put a bell on him, he'd go insane. It is a really, really nice little deck, and I'm sure it would read beautifully. It's very intuitive. I think I've just got to get round to using it, to be honest. That's all there is to it with that, isn't it? It's got a lovely, lovely book with it. Look at that, look, the Two of Swords. You know about the 3 blind mice, but what about the 2 blindfolded squirrels? Perhaps I need to spend some time with the guidebook at some point, and I think maybe that will help me to connect with the deck, because often the guidebooks, you know, they can't they, if they're well written. So there's that one. So I've got 1 deck left, and out of all of them that I've shown you so far, I don't know that I've committed myself to rehoming any of them, have I? Have I? I've got a couple, I've got some maybes, haven't I, at least? I've got some maybes. So the last deck, and this one actually, this one is going to go. I have decided this. This was another gift from my lovely friend. But it just doesn't work for me on so many levels. And I have actually given this one a good go. I used this in some Learn Tarot videos. I've sat and looked at the deck. I've read the book a fair bit. I just haven't used it in a reading. And it is the Tarot of the Enchanted Soul by Yasmin Westwood. And in many ways, it's a beautiful deck. It's a beautiful guidebook. There is a lot to like about this deck. You know, you get keywords, meanings, the person, some thoughts. You know, which is some questions. You know, you get a lot of information there. But the cards are huge. Like massive cards, and they're quite thick cardstock, and I just, maybe if I trimmed them I might enjoy spending time with them more. I don't know, but they're such thick cardstock. I think I'd be afraid to trim them. I'm not sure. I like some of the court cards in this deck. I like the faces and the feel of the people in these cards, but I think again I'm just not a big fan of these collage-y type decks. They don't really do anything for me, and again this has got a lot of keywords on it which can be helpful, but I think when I'm reading I don't really want all these keywords. I think they push my mind in directions that they don't help my intuition to come out, you know. They keep me more in my thoughts, in my mind, rather than in my intuition, and that's not good, is it? That's not helpful. Some of the cards are quite genius. I do like this Tower card very much. This splitting and fracturing is like a dark night of the soul, isn't it? But you know, other ones like this one, the Two of Cups, I just don't. A flamingo in a top hat? No. Have I got them all upside down? Yes. Strength. What's that? Some kind of dragon, isn't it? That's quite a pretty little card, I suppose. And like I said, some of these, if I trimmed the borders off, maybe they might work for me a bit better, but they just do not do it for me, I'm afraid. They just don't. And I know a lot of people love this deck, actually. It's a very popular deck for a lot of people. But, oh, look, they're all upside down. You know, like I said, I don't read reversals. Yeah, I seem to always have my cards mixed around. They're just, yeah. Do you know what? I think sometime in January I'm going to do a giveaway on my channel, because it's been a long time. Well, I don't think I have done a giveaway, have I? I was then thinking I did last year, but I don't think I did. I think a giveaway in the new year is a good idea, and I think I'm going to be giving away this deck. So look out for that in the new year if you are a fan of this deck. And that's really it. That's my 10 decks that I have not worked with at all in 2023. Like I said, I've got several decks on my shelf that are yet to be worked with, but I know that I will. I'm quite excited to. I just haven't got round to them yet. And perhaps some of these might get included in it. Like I said, the Soul Cats deck, the Fairy Tarot, the Crystal Visions. But as for the rest of them, I'm not sure. They hang in the balance at the moment. So if you've got any thoughts about these decks I've shown you, if you own any of them, if you like them or don't like them, I would love to hear from you. I'd love to hear any of your experiences. And like I said, look out for my next video, which is going to be my most worked with decks of 2023. So much love to everyone, and see you all soon.